All right. Thank you all for being here today. We're excited. We appreciate you taking the time out of your Tuesday to learn about the client heartbeat view. Hopefully, you're just as pumped about this as we are. We're very excited. This is the last kickoff call, you guys. This is it. So this afternoon, we'll be sending out a recording of the call along with the job aids. Your Salesforce Me's have already been through a preview of this call and have had the job aids for a little bit. So feel free to reach out to them with any initial questions that you have. My name is Erica Visser, and I made the move to the product team a few months ago from being a senior CSM at 3N. And I was fortunate enough to be on the field advisory board that we'll talk about here in a minute for this project. And now I get to work on this side of the project, which is very exciting, with Amanda Huff, who's on the call. Hi, Amanda.
Hey, hey.
Today, we're going to walk through how we got here. So give you a little bit of background on who has been involved so far, how to access the heartbeat. You now all have access to this view. So we're going to walk you through how to get there. And then we'll go through a high level overview of the heartbeat page for the client view and the prospect view and how we have it sectioned off. Then we'll talk about how to consolidate your feedback to your SMEs and answer any questions that we have time for. We will also be asking you what your favorite thing is at the end or what you're most excited about. So be thinking about that as we talk through everything. So to talk about how we got here, I'm going to kick it over to Amanda since this has been her baby for a while now.
Awesome. Thank you, Erica. This has been so exciting to be a part of. For a little bit of background, well over a year ago, the idea for the client heartbeat started with a desire to have more functionality and more visibility into our clients' interactions with EFM as a whole. Brian St. Eve looked to the members of the Salesforce steering committee to start brainstorming. After coming together, we realized that we had some really good ideas, but we also needed to make sure that we were connecting with the people who were actually doing all the things to really work with our clients and to build strong relationships so we could deliver an exceptional client experience. So with that, our field advisory board, or our FAB, because they're fabulous, yes, you're going to get plenty of puns today, was really where we started to dial them in and get their feedback. We kicked off our meetings with them in March of this year. We've been having weekly calls to provide feedback, and we never could have gotten this far without them. Then we added on 10 pilot groups in July to start testing through this at various sizes, small commercial and traditional. Keep in mind that what you are going to see today is phase 1. We are super excited to get this in your hands. We still have more to come with the next phase and what we'll continue to pull in overall. Eric is going to talk to us a little bit more about that today. Overall, I just have immense thanks and gratitude to Brian St. Eve and our EFM leadership team for helping us move forward with this project, our Salesforce steering committee, our FAB members, our pilot groups, and of course, our Salesforce development team. Without them, absolutely none of this would be possible. Any questions before we start talking about a little more details on Salesforce? Okay. If anybody has done a sales academy with me virtually, you all know I love using the reactions at the bottom of the screen. So if you've got your screen going, if you could at the very bottom, there's a reaction button. I'm going to ask you to raise and lower your hand. Yes, thanks, Garrett. You're already hopping on there for me. I appreciate it. So, and you can put down your hands really quick. I have questions for you. Thank you. I love that you all are so excited for this. I'm going to ask you which view of Salesforce you use today. And you're going to have 3 options. And I know that there's about 220 of you all on here. So I'm doing the math on the back end. So I want to keep you all honest on this. When you use Salesforce today, do you use Sales Console? If yes, raise your hand using the reaction button so we can get a count. Who uses Sales Console? So we're climbing into the 30s, getting close to 40. Okay, go ahead and put your hands down. So your second option is when you hop in and you start using Salesforce today, do you use EFM Console? I'm sorry, EFM Sales. Raise your hand. Climbing up a little bit more sales users. We're in the 50s, getting close to the 60s. Maybe 65, maybe. Okay. Go ahead and put your hands down. Thank you. The third option is you have no idea which one you're hopping into, and you just hop in and you get to work. And it is totally okay if that is your answer. You can go ahead and raise your hand for that. So we're starting to see that one creep up. Maybe they're feeling like some people weren't answering or some people aren't humble enough to let us know that they have no idea what it is when they hop in. That's okay. All right, go ahead and put your hands down. So to level set, before we even hop in and start showing you the client heartbeat, I'm going to show you a couple little tips and differences so you can have a better understanding of where it is that you're going when you actually hop in. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. All right. So for many of you, when you log in, this is probably what you're used to seeing. This is the sales console view in today's world. So when you log in, every single time, you're going to automatically get taken to your homepage, regardless of what you've been doing previously. And it's going to give you a high-level overview of some things that you have going on in your world, right? Your opportunities, big deals that you may be working, recent records, different things like that. The other thing that you're going to notice is across the top of the bar, you've got a navigation bar that's got all the different options for the spaces that you can go in Salesforce listed across the top. Now, if we are switching views, you would hover over this. Technically, it's called the app launcher. I also fondly like to refer to it as a Rubik's Cube because I am a child of the 80s and I love a good Rubik's Cube. Can't solve them for anything, but that's okay. I've also heard them referred to as a waffle, which makes me hungry, but that's okay. So if you click on your Rubik's Cube, you're going to get a few different options. So in today's world, you are either using EFM sales, which is what we see right now. You may be using Sales Console, which I'm going to show you a little bit more of in just a second. And then moving forward, what you will be using, I don't care which one you use, as long as you're using 2.0. So EFM Sales 2.0 is going to most closely mirror what you experience today in EFM Sales. And then if you use Sales Console, I would recommend that you use EFM Sales Console 2.0. For the sake of today's conversation, I'm going to show you EFM Sales Console 2.0 because I think this is a great opportunity to give you all some tips and tricks about some things that you can do to potentially be more efficient as you move forward. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and switch over into EFM Sales Console. While we're loading. All right, so you can immediately start to notice some differences while my internet is potentially lagging. So across the top, you immediately see that the navigation bar across the top is completely different. So in this view, it's customizable for what I've been working in and for what I'm focusing on. So it's a great way to help pivot in between items and manage your time more efficiently and effectively. So that navigation bar that you would normally go to is nestled up under here. You can click on this caret or drop down menu, and that's going to drop down all of your navigation options. You can also pin items that you may go to frequently. So in this example, I, as a former CSM, BAM tracker is near and dear to my heart. It's also BAM season, so I can pin that to the top of my bar so I can get into it really quickly and easily. I've also got a client relationship dashboard pinned up here, and I also have my MBG dashboard. At any given point in time, if I don't want anything up here any longer, I can unpin that tab. Similarly, if I have something open that I do want to pin, I can drop on this and I can go ahead and say pin tab, and it will move it forward for there for me, and it will always be there. From the perspective, if you're working on just a handful of accounts that day and you're focusing in on some preparation, some different calls, that sort of a thing, I love this view because it'll let you move quickly between different items. And what you can already see, and we'll talk about a little bit more in just a second, is once I've gone into that client and I click into maybe a meeting or an opportunity, it's going to start popping up within that menu bar. So if I want to move between items really quickly, I can do that as well. So it saves you time versus having maybe 10 or 15 different tabs open across the top, or by having multiple windows open. So a lot of efficiency can be gained with that. We'll continue talking with your Salesforce SMEs to help people understand what some tips are to help use the different versions of the Sales Console more efficiently as we move forward. So stay tuned for more from your SMEs from there. From here, I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Erica.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda. There's a little bit of lag on my end, so just holler at me if I get too delayed here. But as you can see, this is a client page, an example of what it looks like. And you'll notice right off the bat that there have been a lot of changes. So we're going to walk you through those changes and how to navigate the page. It is going to be weird at first. We understand that anything new, it's going to take some getting used to, but give yourself some grace and get used to where everything is in this view and know that'll just take a few tries. Also keep in mind that this first phase is focused on what lives in Salesforce today and how we can bubble that up to you to make it more accessible. But we have a goal to continue bringing more information into Salesforce at your fingertips in phase 2 that we don't have today, like NSD information and more items to come into the tabs. So don't be alarmed if there are items that are incomplete today. So with that being said, we'll start with the top bar here. You can see that we have the Edge customer number and the account team last meeting date front and center there for you. And then we move right into the milestones. So the milestones are intended to give you a quick picture of how the client is doing, and some of them must be great in core areas. For those of you that went to NSM, there was a slide that was shared that talked about there's a 4% increase in ESQI when we're executing on touch calls, 6% when we're executing on core meetings, and 8% when we're executing on T&E meetings. So that can make a significant impact on your ESQI score. So again, how can we bubble that up? We're going to say bubble a lot today. How can we bubble that up so it's front and center for you? It makes it really easy, not to mention quick touch call content, and it's really easy to put your partnership summaries together without having to navigate to a bunch of different places. So keep that in mind on the milestones. With that, we'll go into the actual milestones. So starting with the pulse score. Now we're going to go at the end and talk about what goes into this score and how it's calculated. So we'll circle back to that. But the pulse score, the intention is not to become a performance metric or some sort of grade, right? It is there to help you identify opportunities. We want it to be real and raw. Where can you build on that relationship with your client? So don't just log it as quick as possible to check that box. We really wanted to give you visibility into where you can focus with the client to create a better experience. So we'll circle back to the pulse score and the calculation at the end. So that moves us to the core meeting satisfied. You'll have your last meeting date for each core meeting here. Some of the icons will be color coordinated, and you can see there they'll change from red to green to yellow, and the job aid will describe what that criteria is to move them to the different colors. But you can easily click into the last meeting here and see your customer service notes, your meeting outcome notes. If you have a next meeting scheduled for one of these, it will be in parentheses next to that last meeting date. So yeah, Amanda's clicking in here. You can easily get those details. We had someone actually reach out last week before that was live and said, man, I wish I could just quickly go to my last core meetings and see the customer service notes. And that was an easy reply because we said, well, you'll get that next week. So you can see quick and easily there those meetings. Then we move to the last wows for your PFC and DM. And the beauty of this here is you can hover over either of those to see the details on the last wow. So we always joke that it's one more click, but it's one less click. So you're welcome. It's just a hover. If you'd like to click in and get more information, you can, but it really surfaces the information on that last wow, especially if you're about to wow them again. Same with the quarterly touch calls, your PFC and your ESQI contact. You can hover over and see, one, did you make a good quality touch call? Two, if you're about to call them again, you obviously don't want to repeat the same thing you talked about in your last call. So gives you great visibility into that information. Again, you can click in and get more details. Okay, that brings us down to cases at the bottom left hand. You'll see that you have two different types of cases listed here today, CS alerts and non-CS alerts. So for CS alerts, that is a work in progress here. We have a couple of pilot groups that are working on moving CS alerts to cases so we can have better visibility and reporting. But if you're not on that pilot group, you will not see anything there today. It does not pull in any open tasks. So keep that in mind. But you do have your non-CS alerts that will pull in any open UDC, MVA cases, and you can click in there and get the details and status on those cases. All right, then we move to orders and deliveries. This one's pretty straightforward. You have your orders in the last 12 months, last order date, and deliveries in the last 30 days. When we were talking with the field advisory board, they really said, hey, if we're making a touch call or a client's calling us, it's probably about their most recent delivery. So how can we have that at your fingertips? You can click in and get more details. So any of those hyperlinks, you can click in and get backup information to those reports. And then we have a couple that are still under construction, but hopefully you'll get excited about what's to come. We want to give you more visibility into the vehicles that are in the shop or have experienced a tow and what that might look like, as well as license and title. And that's our favorite little milestone there with the cute little EFM 57. Hopefully y'all like that. Okay, that was a lot. Any questions before Amanda walks us through the tabs themselves?
Oh, all right. Thank you for that, Erica. So one of the objectives that we had was to help segment out the information instead of the endless scrolling up and down that tends to happen when you're working in Salesforce. So as we were talking with our field advisory board, something came up about really the 3 pillars to exceptional service, right? In an exceptional relationship, customer service, that relationship, and the operational pillars that really help support it. So thank you to Parsa and CZ for really helping establish and ground us in that idea. And that'll be something that we focus on as we continue walking through these different tabs. So initially with the account details, you're going to see just some high level information on it. One of the things that came up the other day was when you look at this, you're used to seeing the AE and the AM. Where did the CSM go? Remember that that's also up here at the top, so you can get it at a glance when you're working through it really quickly, so you can understand who the account team is supporting it, the account. You've got an understanding of the market rating and so on. Then we start to dive into the overall fleet potential and FRP overview, so some nice insights there pretty concisely. Walk into government details, additional information that you may want to know about that client, business associations, and then we start walking into addresses and manufacturer IDs that may be housed in Salesforce. From there, this is where the information gets a little bit more exciting and may start to look familiar if you are a fan of the new client onboarding. In the relationship tab, we've borrowed the key contacts so it can surface up at a glance who are your main contacts. So you've got the PFC, the ESQI contact, and the WOW DM. And then, of course, you've got a quick overview of what their top 5 are. So if you need a quick refresher when you're picking up the phone and talking to them, if you need to update anything, you can quickly do that just by clicking on the hyperlink for their name. It's going to take you into the contact so you can update their top 5 from there. So really nice, easy visibility to what their information is, but also what's the quality of the information that we have when you're working through there. From there, another piece of feedback that we heard loud and clear is when you work through contacts, for anybody who's got a lot of drivers, it is super cumbersome to figure out who your authorized signers are and different things like that. So we now have a filtered contact list. This contact list is going to automatically pull out any drivers, and then it's going to give you the primary role that these individuals have, in addition to who's the ESQI contact, who are your authorized signers, do you have a DM WOW that's been checked, when's their last WOW, and then what's the overall percentage of completion for the relationship. So quick insights. This particular example is a test environment and for a test client. And so you've got probably more contacts on here than you would normally see, but if you're looking at one of your current accounts, you'll see a much more abbreviated list than what you're used to. From there, we can also dial into the WOWs and to the synergy information that we have from our partnerships with EH, referral information as well. So I'm not going to click into those. There's not a lot of change, but it's just more about where those items are as they pertain to the overall relationship. Service is going to dig in and give us more information about what we see up here in this milestone for CS alert cases as well as the non-CS alert cases. So of course, the goal with cases is to give you insight to the process and the progress of any kind of request that you're working with other teams on. So this will give you a nice quick overview of what you may have in progress with other teams. Operational, the garage, just like the garage at your house, it's got all the vehicles in it, right? So when we're looking at this, you've got a high level overview of what the vehicle mix is, what are your active leases, COVs, and maintenance only units potentially. So it gives you a nice quick view. The thing I think you all will get a little bit more excited about is the backlog. This is going to update with your current statuses. So if you're in Salesforce, you can quickly dial into the client. You can dig into the backlog without having to hop into other systems and other types of reporting. So it's going to give you a quick overview of what the unit status is. A little bit of a note, when we're looking at these charts, we can only include up to 10 pieces of information in it. So based on feedback, we have what we thought were some of the top pieces of information that anybody can use to interact with their client. So just to give you a little bit of insight of how we might look at those vehicles or be able to reference them relatively quickly. And then we go into expirations, very similar to what exists today for any units past term. Products, I hope you'll find a little bit of happiness in when we're looking at this. It's going to give you a quick overview of how many units you have on each ancillary product, as well as your penetration. An item that we are currently working on bringing to the table is utilization of those ancillaries. So it can help you have value added conversations when you're doing touch calls and you're prepping with meetings. So you can see really quickly and easily how they are actually using those products that they have with us. From there, unit sales has still going to be a work in progress, but it'll help give you an overview of what's maybe been stop build or what's been settled within a certain amount of time. So you can get a quick reference just to understand if they have any questions before you need to go look for any additional information. And then of course we have credit. Nothing too exciting about credit, except we've added the account fiscal year end, which has not been visible on Salesforce historically. Hopefully that makes a couple people happy because you can also pull it into reporting if you like. And then we've also got visibility as to if that client is on EFT. The big one with this is so if a client calls in, they might have a question about their bill. You can kind of double check what some of their concerns might be by understanding if they're on EFT or not. It can also help you prep for any type of touch calls and understand what's happening with some of the delivery conversations that may be coming up. So some nice things there. Tools are where you've got details nestled in on DocuSign. Don't worry, you don't have to come all the way here to send a DocuSign, but it'll let you see what's going on, what's been completed, what's maybe been sent out. D&B Hoovers is only available for our account executive friends. We also have search nearby. That functionality has not changed. That still exists in the same way. This is just where you find it. And then we've got management approvals for any of our sales leaders that are out there. This is where you'll find any of the approvals that you need to do within Salesforce. Any questions before I turn it over to Erica to walk us through the right-hand side? Got some fun little things in the chat, so thank you all for interacting over there. We appreciate it.
A lot of excitement. All right, if I think of any questions, put them through here. But on the right-hand side, to round this out, you still have your quick links there at the top right-hand side. There's an abbreviated version, and you can click show all to see all of them. You can also use this little hover bubble there by the title, and that's going to show you how to rearrange, or tell you rather, how to rearrange that information. So if you have items that you reference more frequently, feel free to move those to the top, and you don't even have to expand it very often. So you'll have those at the top. You have your drag and drop for DocuSign, and then your usual activity and chatter feed. And then just note with files, some of you may know this, but once you have a file added, it is not clear that you can drag and drop a file here, but you can drag and drop files here, and it will save it to the account. I think we had a question come through. Let me try to pull up my chat here.
We did. Is Sales Console geared towards CSMs or more for AFCs? It's actually not geared toward a particular role. What you'll notice is on the homepage when you're in Sales Console for 2.0, it may feel a little bit more sales oriented because it speaks to opportunities. We're working on fine tuning what some of those home pages will look like by role. But once you actually get into the sales console, you'll each have different flexibility in how to work with different accounts, different task lists, different reports to help you pivot between those tabs pretty quickly and easily. So I say it's a pretty equal opportunity sort of a view to be able to have. But that's a great question. Thank you, Natasha. Yeah.
All right. Any way we can get mileage pulled from the website into the Salesforce unit? So that's a good question. We have a lot of feedback already from the pilot groups and the field advisory board on items that we want to continue working on in phase 2 that we don't have in Salesforce today. And that one is one that is on the list to work on and consider. So keep the feedback coming through your SMEs. The more we hear about certain items, and the more we can look at putting those in quicker than others. Will there be an easy way to submit for bid incentives for government incentives? That process will stay the same as it was prior. Let's see, where am I cutting off? Where would we put an authorized signer for the DocuSign? We had a situation this morning, had to go back to the old console. If you will please email us that directly, that we have not heard that, you should be able to mark an authorized signer as before. So please email us directly and we'll work with you on that. Thank you.
I think we can pivot over to the AE view. Oh, and then we'll circle back to your question, Matt, in just a second. Go ahead, Erica.
Yep, so this is going to be the prospecting view. It's going to be pretty similar to what you've seen on the client view. But first and foremost, we have that top bar there with the Edge customer number and the account owner and some information about the client. We also bubbled up the opportunities, so previous opportunities and current opportunities. So that's quick and easy for you to see. We are still working with Mark Block and Mike Helsel on enhancements to come in this view in the future. Obviously, our main priority was the client view. But if you scroll down here, you can see the account details that you're used to seeing. Again, to avoid the never-ending scroll, we have it sectioned off in tabs. So just get used to and play around with where that information is housed. You also have the very amazing relationship view that everyone's excited about. So as you start in to add your key contacts and the top 5 information, you have quick visibility to that. You also have your contacts that will show, as well as any synergy information on the relationship tab. Then you have your tools. This is standard from what you had before, includes your DocuSign information, D&B Hoovers, search nearby, and management approvals. And then again, similar to the client view, the activity tab that is going to bubble up some of the recent activities and past activities for you. That moves us again to the right-hand side, similar to the client view, so you don't have to worry too much about that.
And then we've got a couple of questions really quick. So one of them was, can you set your default to 2.0? What's really neat is that Salesforce remembers what you were in previously. So if the last view that you were in was one of the 2.0 views, you close out of it and you hop back in, that same 2.0 view should open up when you hop back into Salesforce. So it should remember where you are and where you've been going. So hopefully once you just flip that switch yourself over into 2.0 for your preferred view, you'll be able to rock and roll from there. And I knew this question would be coming, and Jacob, I'm happy that you asked it. Will there be an easy way for the managers to see the pulse scores for all of the clients in one report? It's a work in progress. We are working on it right now. We wanted to get this out, but that is something that we are working on at Rollout View, so you can see your book of business at any level across the board. So we will get there. Oh, all right, good deal. And then we had a question from Jessica. Is there a way to rearrange the different bubbles on the console 2.0 homepage? Not that I'm aware of at this time. So sorry not to have more flexibility on it, but potentially something for the future. Good questions.
Okay, anything else before we go back to the PowerPoint and talk about how the pulse weight looks? Okay, I'm going to share my screen here back to the PowerPoint. Give me just 1 second here. All right. Okay, so let's talk about the pulse weight. You can see right off the bat, as it stands today, your total points will be 55 points. There are more items to come in the future that will make up the pulse score difference to get you to 100 points. Think about future state. How can we make quality touch calls and bring value so we can be more proactive versus reactive? So things like a client called into the billing team 5 times in 1 month, right? And how can we bubble that up to you? 1, so you know about it. And 2, can we even survey their experience with the billing team? Make sure we're providing good solutions to our clients. So more to come again on phase 2 on the remaining points here. But today it equals 55 points, and I'm going to walk you through that line by line. So starting with birthdays, you have 5 points for birthdays, 2.5 from the PFC and 2.5 for the DM. Anniversary, 5 points again, 5 if it's complete, 0 if it's not complete. WOWs logged, 5 points, 2.5 for the PFC, 2.5 for the DM. And then core meetings, you can see here we have a higher weight on core meetings. Again, back to if we're executing on our core meetings, that increase to our customer service score. So it has more of a weight here. 10 of that is going to come from 100% core meeting completion. The other 10 is going to come from if you've had a core meeting in the last 120 days. So the data shows that if we have not met with our client in the last 120 days, then we start to see a decline in our customer service score. So we want to avoid having the FAM, the ACR, the T&E 3 months in a row and then not seeing them for another 9 months, right? So that will be 10 of your points. Then you have touch calls, 15 points, 7.5 for the PFC, 7.5 for the ESQI, again, focusing on quality touch calls here. And then the last 5 coming from your orders and deliveries, 2.5 if they've had an order within the last 12 months, and 2.5 if they've had a delivery within the last 6 months. So again, 55 points is going to equal 100% on your pulse score. So pop quiz, you didn't know that you'd be doing a little math class today. If you only have 50 out of 55 points, what will your pulse score be? And it's going to round up. Ooh, yeah, that was quick.
Yeah.
91%. That's correct. So keep that in mind. You'll be able to click into the pulse score on the account page and get the backup as to where you may be missing points. You'll have the pulse score guide that'll be linked under the milestone. We're working on that, so it's right at your fingertips. There will be job aids sent out this afternoon, and they'll also be housed in Salesforce in case you need to reference them at any time. So you will have a more detailed job aid on that. Any questions? I think a few questions came through before we talk about feedback.
Yes, a couple of questions that came through the chat. And this is from Tori. Great question on this. Do you know if Salesforce will be able to communicate with Outlook in the future? It would be so convenient to have everything in one place, reading emails and creating tasks and cases. Plus, if someone's out or leaves the company, all the emails would still be in a centralized location. We are currently doing some research on better integration beyond the Blue Cloud, the Outlook for Salesforce plugin that exists today. So we're working through that. There's some different questions that we need to get figured out regarding security and some other pieces with that. But that is an active conversation that we're having right now. So thank you for bringing that one to us. The next one is from Hunter. Is there a way to easily see what all of your clients' pulse score is to target the at-risk accounts? We're actually working on developing a report so you can get some visibility to that from a holistic standpoint instead of a one-off situation. So that'll be coming. I'm going to caveat soon, but that is something that we are working on. We have a couple of questions that we're trying to work out on, like how quickly it rolls over, but it is something in progress for you. Good stuff.
All right. And you might have seen from St. Eve's email that the goal is to sunset the old view by the end of the calendar year. So the quicker you hop in and get used to it, 1, and then 2, provide feedback so we can make sure that everything you need is at your fingertips there. Filter that up through your SMEs, but the sooner you adopt it, the easier it will be when we look to turn off that old view by the end of the calendar year. Okay, so I'm gonna kick it back over to you, Amanda, to talk about how to submit feedback.
Yes, feedback. We all love feedback, but I want to separate this into two different camps. So good feedback and bad feedback. I'm going to talk about bad feedback first. Bad feedback is just, I don't like it. I picture somebody standing with their hand on their hips and tapping their toes, right? I don't love that. We can't help you if that's the kind of feedback. What we can absolutely help you with, I love this feed forward. That's a cool idea. How do you help push up ideas, help us understand the challenge that you're facing, the problem that you're trying to solve, and how it can provide value? Hey, this doesn't give me the best insight on that. It would be helpful if you could also show us X, Y, Z. This is the value it would bring me when I'm working with my clients or when we're working on accounts. So just keep that in mind as you're moving forward. I love everything that's happening in the chat. Yes, thank you. I'll be part of the solution, and I love that there's a patent pending on it. So thank you for that. So the other thing is sometimes you're going to run into issues with the pages. If you're truly running into an issue, something's not working the way that you would expect it to, send a ticket to IT support. When you do send a ticket to IT support, I ask you to keep something in mind. Think about when a client reaches out to you and they just say, I need a truck. And you're like, cool. What brand, what color, what cab, 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive, what kind of engine? Like, you've got a ton of questions, right? It's kind of what happens when somebody sends a ticket to IT support and just goes, hey, this doesn't work. Cool. What would you expect? Help me understand what's not working. Give me a few more details. So these are the same kind of things that we just ask that you provide to teams that are trying to help you out. It's going to help them help you faster. So be a friend. I like the feed forward, regardless of the situation that you're looking into at that. So keep that in mind. So other things for feedback, since we talked about good feedback and bad feedback, leverage your Salesforce SMEs. Pretty please. We are having continuing office hours. They started last week with our kickoff calls for the client heartbeat. They will be ending on October 13th, which somehow just dawned on me that it's Friday the 13th. So we might have to extend it at least one more week just to not have bad luck on that. But we are meeting every Friday at 10:30 Central Time. Your SME has a standing invitation to it, so they can bring in any feedback or any questions that you all may have. So please make sure you're talking with them to push that forward from there. So with that, I'm going to ask to circle back to Erica's preparation for you all earlier today. We told you earlier, you're going to have a little bit of homework on the call. What are a few of your favorite things? What are things that you're most excited about? So if we can maybe talk about that. So whether you want to come off of mute and volunteer a couple of things that you're excited about, or raise your hand to volunteer, or drop something in chat that you're excited about, we would love to hear it and how you're going to use it. And then after that, we will go through any questions that you all may have.
Full score. I'll start. I'll lead us off.
Yes.
Full score. I mean, the fact of the matter, you have a metric or a variable that takes all of the different factors that go into a healthy client experience. And we can say you're 100%, 80%, 60%, and just dial in instead of having to go piece by piece by piece, account by account by account, and say, okay, did we do this? Did we do this? Did we do this? Did we do this? Makes just identifying opportunities way more efficient.
I love that. And I love that you dialed in so quickly on that ease of use, ease of process. Love it. Thank you so much, Jacob. Mannix.
Yeah, I think the one thing that stood out to me was the having the cases kind of updated where you can drill into that. I've obviously corporate's making a big push for us to utilize cases more, right? Instead of taking that on our own. It's nice to see it consolidated in one place, right? Where you can kind of see the status of it and update it very quickly if there's various tasks that you have to go follow up on from the aftermarket team. So I like that aspect a lot.
Awesome. Thank you. Consolidation's the name of the game. Thank you. Got a lot of good stuff going on in chat. Kenny?
Yeah, I'm super fired up about the operational piece and just having that banner right there on top, because we're really big on proactive drip campaigns to our existing portfolio as well as potential clients. And so being able to house all that one snapshot will allow us to scale it a lot quicker and give them a little nibble and entice them to kind of reach out for more. So I love that piece. So really good job on that. Kudos.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Tim?
Yeah, same topic, but a little bit different spin on it. The idea of utilizing that tab for providing value and quality within touch calls, as well as answering questions more quickly, is definitely going to be huge for the CSM and AFC teams.
Awesome. Thank you. And I love that it's kind of the same thing, a couple of different flavors. So how things can be leveraged for different roles across the board. So thank you all for sharing that.
A
Got some
lot
awesome.
to chat about backlog, never-ending scroll bar eliminated, contacts, ease of use. So a lot of good feedback. We're glad that you guys are excited. Hopefully this makes your job much easier on a day-to-day. Any other, I think there were a couple questions that got captured in here. One was about the poll scores again by book of business. So yes, we are working on that and where it will be housed. So you can see that information. It will just show on the account page for each client today. And then I think there was one more here. Do we have the ability to search for nearby clients in the prospect page? That should still be under your tools tab in the prospect view. So good questions. Anything else? Okay. I think we hit it all. So thank you very much again for being here. Submit your feedback through your Salesforce SMEs, and we look forward to hearing your reactions to it. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thank you all so much.